You're listening to Dr. Troy Munson's Words of Radiance. Now here is Dr. Munson.
Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Troy Munson. I had the privilege this week to have an individual that I was called in to kind of help, if you will, and listen and see if we couldn't come up with some solutions. The interesting thing was that they didn't really want solutions. They wanted to feel mostly superior. And when I began asking really good questions, trying to break through some of the confusion and the misinformation, they got rather upset and basic language told me to shut up and listen. I was happy to do so. I thought nothing of it. I realized that this particular person was out of reality because they were quite upset. And even though I asked them why they were so upset, they actually told me that they weren't upset, that everybody should just do what they said to do, and that they should just stop taking things the wrong way. And I thought, how interesting. That's technically what you're doing right now. But I listened and I realized, okay, so we have somebody who is a bit on the edge. And when we were done, I said, thanks, I have to go. And I left the conversation. And then later I saw that individual and they were deeply apologetic. And I said, you need to apologize? For what? And I was confused because I hadn't thought anything about it since the morning. And they said, well, I didn't really, I was kind of unkind. And I said, you were unkind? In what way? And again, asking questions because I didn't take an offense at all. And finally, I realized what was going on. I said, wait a minute. I said, the most wonderful thing about being me is that you never, ever have to ask me for forgiveness because I'm not going to take an offense from you because I get to control whether or not I am offended. And I would never do that to myself. I am in love so much with us, with our real self, the one self, that which is all. I am so in love with that I would never seek to do something against that beautiful, loving nature, like take an offense and believe something of a brother or sister that I knew was technically not true. And when he heard this, he was deeply relieved on some aspect, but then we had another 5 or 10 minute conversation about other things. And when we're getting ready to wrap up the conversation, he once again said that he needed to ask forgiveness. And I was confused. I said, if I did something like eat a banana that was on your counter and you don't like bananas. In fact, you were going to throw them out. I did you a service, but I wanted to apologize to you for eating a banana. Who actually is the one that is responsible for the guilt and shame of eating the banana? And he quickly understood that it was himself that he actually needed to ask forgiveness of. And we tend to not like that because it actually points out that we're the ones that took on all the guilt and shame within our own mind, and we don't like it that we immediately project it onto other people and believe that we could have hurt them. Now, some people are willing to play along and they say, you hurt me. I'm totally offended. Got it. And so there are people that are willing donors or willing acceptors, rather, of guilt and shame because that's kind of how they operate. And so there will be those people that you will have to ask forgiveness from, which I find interesting when I'm in that situation. And I will literally go at great lengths to grovel even and ask for forgiveness. I find it quite liberating. And of course, the egoic mind that is within each of us finds it horrifying, but that just makes me giggle. So if you're kind of at that point where you love to kind of watch the ego wither under certain circumstances, then this is right up your alley. For those of you that are like, I could never ask somebody for forgiveness, well, then you may want to do some inner searching until all of a sudden you see the beauty of your true self as opposed to the egoic nature that constantly lives in a state of fear. And you'll begin to do the fun things that I like to do to my own ego, like, tell people how sorry I am. But ultimately, there is also this other level of issue with believing that you could hurt another person. And I want to explore that a bit here too and give it its due. If you've seen it, fabulous. You can go, yes, I see that. But for those of you that maybe it's a bit more hidden, when we believe that we could harm another by our words, we literally have to be in a state of arrogance to believe that you could indeed harm a divine being like another, ultimately. And so there is a bit of arrogance that would say that I'm sure I hurt you, and I'm really sorry. And ultimately, I have to tell people I wasn't hurt. I was harmed not at all. I was completely okay with everything you said, and it was just fine. And you could say, okay, sometimes I will say, well, thank you for your apology. I really, really appreciate that. You are completely absolved. And there's different ways to approach, but this particular one, I was like, you know what? I think this is the approach that is best this point, so that we can get beyond this and not believe that you could walk or that you would have to walk around eggshells around me, because that is it's not what I want you to do. I want you to be authentically yourself. And I want you to see what's going on within your own mind as clearly as you possibly can, so that you can be completely aware and begin to let go and not take on an offense against yourself and project it onto others and believe that they're the ones with the problems either. We want to kind of fix it all the way around. So this is a fairly deep conversation, and we hit it on many points. There's lots to unpack for you, and to do some deep thinking and watching within your own mind as you have these little minor upsets that are in life. You'll figure it out of what your brain is doing and begin to realize and ask the better question, is this something I still really want? And if you're like, you know what, this is crazy. This is rather insane. I think I'm going to definitely let go of all of this kind of thinking process and not pick up offenses, not take on any kind of guilt or shame with things that I thought I did. I'm going to acknowledge all of it. When somebody comes at me that seems like I have hurt them, I'm certainly going to go to great lengths to apologize and let it stand so that they can be alleviated. And maybe at some point in time, they get to a point where they're willing to hear a higher level of truth and begin to help their own mind not take on these offenses either. So this is kind of the point at which we would look back. And again, those of you that remember the saying, and I've done podcasts on this, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And we were taught that as children, and yet I ask young people these days, and they don't know the last part. They only know the sticks and stones. And so there's this gap that is happening in our society, this new generation coming up that believes that everything can hurt them. And it is this mental fortitude and this understanding of the beauty within you and the strength and the permanence and the unharmability within you that really does need to come out and begin to be liberated. Now, again, everything that I believe has hurt me, only I believe has hurt me. And whatever has hurt you, it is only your belief that has hurt you. And if you say, yeah, but I'm missing a finger because somebody cut it off, I'm just going to be very gross here and poignant and using an extreme example so that we can get beyond this and say, well, are you just a body? If you are just a body, then you're going to believe that people can harm you all the time. But if you let go of all of the thinkingness of the mind and sit in stillness with just your real ideal self that is the silence beyond all thinking, that knows all, that is life itself, that is love itself, that is joy, when you reach into that and feel it deeply, all of a sudden you begin to realize that, my gosh, I am not this body. And I love David Hawkins when he realized this capacity that he had when he went way beyond anything of the physical. And for a moment, he saw everyone around him, and he saw through their eyes, and he asked the question, when did I get inside all of these people? And he saw it so clearly, and the oneness of everything, and that is possible for you. Anybody could do it at any time if you so wish. If it is your deepest heart's desire to be completely clear and move beyond the smallness and littleness of this physical world. Now, David went on for years and years and wrote books and lectured and brought many people to that precipice to allow them to jump off themselves and realize that they are this bigness within. They are the God within, the divine spark, the life of eternity forever within, that is everything and that is one with everything. And so it isn't some pie in the sky, it is for everyone. And it's just whether or not it's what you want to experience or not. And we're not going to fault you for not. It is your experience and yours alone, and you may choose as you wish. But if you didn't know you had a choice, I at least wanted you to know you do. So I hope this kind of unpacks forgiveness a little bit differently and how it works within the mind, and even a little bit of extra there at the end, which is always nice. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed this. I'm Dr. Troy Munson.